Lectures on First Meditation, Part 3, Doubting Intellectual Knowledge. In the last video, we studied Descartes' dreaming argument and some of its consequences. Let's now review some of those consequences by looking at what Descartes has to say on page 14 of the text. Descartes says, "So a reasonable conclusion from this," by which he means to refer to the dreaming argument, "might be that physics, astronomy, medicine, and all other disciplines which depend on the study of composite things are doubtful, while arithmetic, geometry, and other subjects of this kind, which deal only with the simplest and most general things, regardless of whether they really exist in nature or not, contain something certain and indubitable. For whether I am awake or asleep, 2 and 3 added together are 5, and a square has no more than 4 sides. It seems impossible that such transparent truths should incur any suspicion of being false." But is it really impossible to doubt our mathematical knowledge? Descartes thinks the answer to that question is no. There are reasons for doubting our mathematical knowledge. In this third wave of doubt, Descartes presents us with an argument for doubting mathematical knowledge. Scholars don't have a standard name for this argument, though some of them call it his dilemmatic argument for reasons which we'll see shortly. I'm going to call it the origins argument to try to help us remember that this argument is about the origins of my mind. Here's how I'm going to paraphrase Descartes' argument for doubting mathematical knowledge. First, if God exists, I have reason to doubt mathematical knowledge. Second, if God does not exist, I have reason to doubt mathematical knowledge. Therefore, I have reason to doubt mathematical knowledge. Now, I want to focus first on the logic of this argument, which we can make more explicit by replacing sentences that appear in the premises with letters. So, for example, suppose we use A for the sentence God exists, and B for the sentence I have reason to doubt mathematical knowledge. The first premise now becomes simply, if A, then B. The second premise becomes, if not A, then B, and the conclusion is simply B. The logical form of this argument is very straightforward, for it reads, if A, then B, if not A, then B, therefore B. Any argument with this logical form is an example of what we call a dilemma, and dilemmas are always deductively valid arguments. So this argument for doubting mathematical knowledge is deductively valid. But remember that that means only that if the premises were true, the conclusion would have to be true. So if Descartes is going to really present us with a compelling or convincing argument, he has to give us some grounds for thinking that the premises are in fact true. So what evidence for the truth of these premises does Descartes present? Well, he gives us reasons for believing in the truth of these premises on page 14. Let's think about the evidence that he gives first for premise number 1. The first premise, again, is, if God exists, I have reason to doubt mathematical knowledge. Now, Descartes says something like this. He says, look, if God exists, then God created my mind. But he created my mind in such a way that I am sometimes mistaken about even simple mathematical statements. And we all have lots of evidence that this is true, because we all experience ourselves making simple mathematical mistakes quite frequently. For example, when we're trying to calculate the change from purchasing a coffee or something like that. But now, if God created my mind so that I am sometimes mistaken, it's possible that God created my mind so that I am always mistaken when I make mathematical judgments. And this last possibility is underwritten by the fact that at this stage of meditations, I don't really know that much about the nature of God or why I make mathematical mistakes in the first place. So for Descartes, this evidence supports the truth of the first premise, that if God exists, I have reason to doubt mathematical knowledge. What evidence does he give us for the second premise? Well, again, remember the second premise is just that if God does not exist, I have reason to doubt mathematical knowledge. Now Descartes says something like this. If God does not exist, then my mind was not created by a perfect being. So the source or the origins of my mind must be imperfect. And if my mind has an imperfect origin, because maybe it came into existence as a result of a series of chance events, then it is even more likely that my mind is always mistaken when I make mathematical judgments. Think of it this way. If my intellect is a tool for grasping mathematical truths, that tool might be completely incapable of grasping mathematical truths if it just came into existence as a result of a series of chance events in the history of the universe. So this kind of reasoning, for Descartes, supports the truth of the second premise in the origins argument, which says that if God does not exist, I have reason to doubt mathematical knowledge. And now if both premises are true, then because the argument is deductively valid, we are forced to accept the conclusion that I have reason to doubt mathematical knowledge. Now we've traveled a long way with Descartes through first meditation. We've called into doubt just about everything. If we think back to our fictitious homework assignment of writing I doubted on any page of the catalog that contains knowledge that should be doubted, now if we include the third wave of doubt, it looks as if every page in the catalog has I doubted written on it in red marker. But it's hard to remember everything I'm supposed to doubt. It's hard to remember to doubt that 1 + 1 = 2. It's hard to remember to question whether I'm really holding a piece of paper when it seems like I really am. To help himself remember what he's supposed to doubt, Descartes uses a very clever and creative tool. He says, look, let's pretend there exists a supremely powerful evil genius that is set on deceiving me. And then when I come back tomorrow to meditate philosophically and search for the foundations of knowledge, I don't have to go back and rethink all the arguments that led me to doubt things. Instead, I can just ask myself a simple question anytime I'm considering some judgment. I can just ask myself, could the evil genius be deceiving me about blank? Where what goes in the blank is any judgment that I'm considering. And if the answer to that question is yes, the evil genius could be deceiving me about blank, then I know that that must be something I have found reasons for doubting back in first meditation. And so the question that we're left with at the end of first meditation is there anything at all that is beyond the hyperbolic doubt that we have accepted in order to avoid the illusion of wisdom?